Alright, I'm going to try to do a quick video. I apologize, but I just finished watching a video put out by Daniel Dumbrill with a guest of his named Brian Baletic, who is a ex-U.S. Marine who lives in Thailand. Who, through his life journey, has come to the realization that the patriotism that he was indoctrinated into was an abject fantasy created by his country, and has basically betrayed him. And those are not his words exactly, but check out Brian Baletic, who has a channel called New Atlas, and you can go back in his video archive and understand his position. But that's the perception that I get from him, from his own channel. The other one is Carl Zar, who was also on this particular video, who grew up partially in the United States. Went to primary school in the United States, and he's a very well-informed man who understands history and has understood the indoctrination of what primary school in the United States does, as well as the media atmosphere, which is basically all fabrication. Much of the media in the United States and in Western countries is generated to omit, exclude, to spin, misrepresent, and disinform. So much of the stuff that you don't I'm sorry, the video froze up. Much of the stuff that you don't hear about is the stuff that they don't want you to know. And I've made videos about the stuff that they don't tell you about. And so that actually has a deeper impact than the stuff that they tell you. Deeper impact as in making sure that you stay ignorant, stupid, because that's exactly what it is. I'm going to be blunt with you. You remain ignorant and stupid, and basically you become nothing more than marionettes, puppets, to the rules and standards that the ruling elites have dictated for you. And it doesn't matter if you look like me, or if you look like white Westerner, or you're black, or Hispanic, or whatnot. I went through primary school, and I know the indoctrination, and I become aware because I have actively looked into it, because I have actively found sourced material that is historical fact. And so through this, I have developed a critical level of thinking. I'm not as good as Daniel or Brian or even Carl, not even Jimmy Dore. But I am still actively working on that. And breaking the indoctrination is hard. It's damn difficult. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It'd be much easier to just go along. But the thing is my earlier life experience, which I've talked about on videos before, makes it difficult, if not impossible, for me to just go along. So what all this brings me up to is that 60 Minutes Australia has done a war propaganda video, and it's called War on China. And the thing is this is an overt. This isn't one of those, subliminal or insinuating types of manufacturing consent. This is an overt effort for manufacturing consent. And while it is 60 Minutes Australia, understand that this will probably pop up overtly within the US and European and other Western outlets. And this includes France 24, BBC, DW, Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is Western only because they are Jordan, who funds Al Jazeera, is a ally of the United States in the West. So, and of course there are elements in India, and because there's a lot of Indian channels that are done in English that come in the United States, and they are rabidly against China. But that's all manufactured outrage and insinuation and basically bald-faced lies. But they're no different from the U.S., whether it's CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, PBS, The Nation, Vox, Fox, you name it. They're no different. So basically, I'm from what I have been able to understand and grasp, this will be the first overt propaganda to manufacture consent, just like they did in Iraq. The first and second, and how they did it with Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Somalia, what they're currently doing with Ethiopia, what they're doing with Cuba, what they've done, what they've always done with Cuba, and what they've been doing with Venezuela, what they did in Bolivia, what they did in Eastern Europe. That's borders that were one time ex-Soviet Union states. So this is the first overt, but this is the most dangerously overt part, because if they get it, if they actually do manufacture this consent, we're talking about a high potential for a global nuclear war. And that means basically the end of everything. There is no turning back. There is no life. The planet will go on, but no life will exist. A thermonuclear war. That's basically the end. So check out the ABC. Check out the 60 Minutes Australia, and also check out Daniel Dumbrill, who covered that propaganda piece. for war, for manufacturing consent, and watch and listen carefully to what Daniel and Brian and Carl talk about. And Daniel, Brian, I watch Carl as well, but not as much as I watch Daniel and Brian. And so I have the highest respect and admiration for those two. And they are very good at sifting through the source material and bringing it to you. And so, even channels like No Cold War and Cold Pink and all those, or Massachusetts Peace Action, they often do not dig as deep as Daniel and Brian do. And they often miss much of the stuff, and particularly Brian. Brian dug into it, and he brought up the Rand Corporation and other sources going back to like 1964, and more recently in 2016. These think tanks and corporations of the U.S. and West that basically state boldly that they have been working and to start a war with China. And this is something I've been saying for I think about 10 years now. So it is utterly dangerous, and the most one of the biggest parts of it is that because of the policy and the threats that are open or insinuated against Russia and China, particularly China, but also to Russia, such as their attempts to destroy Russian economy or limit the Russian economy and technology, but it's tenfold more against China. They have pushed Russia and China together, and it's basically it's going to the point where we can basically assume that Russia and China are one in the same mind. And so Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal that almost matches, or if not exceeds, the U.S. And Russia has the capability of sending those. China doesn't. China does not have the capability of sending nuclear weapons. And ABC, that 60 Minutes basically in Australia basically said, hey, you have a nuclear threat over you if you don't go by our rules-based order. Whereas China and Russia keep saying over and over again, international laws and rules. That is what they stand for, but that's not what the U.S. And the West has been. They keep talking about international rules-based order. It's particularly the U.S. is saying that we will set the rules, and the rest of you will follow. You will either be our lapdogs and do as we say, or and you will follow our example, and you will do as we tell you to do. Now, in the West, it's the West all have independently ideas of imperial rules-based order that are subservient to their own wants and needs. And so, but that's the ruling elites, not the populations. So this is a extremely dangerous, because this is basically life ending. You do not start a war with economic, military, and social powerhouses, particularly with China, who has the technological, economic, population-wise, the U.S. doesn't even come to a quarter of the population size of China. You don't start a war with a country that's almost on parity with you, and so it's, and one thing I do understand though is that the West, particularly the U.S., thinks that China is now capable of actually, if a war is started against them, that China is incapable of bringing the war to the soil of the aggressor. I completely disagree, and that's one thing that Daniel and Brian don't seem to think. And the thing is there are certain things that are certain sources that I pay attention to, and I do not believe that China is incapable, and certainly not the Russians. The Russians are completely capable of doing it. And if a war is set against China, that means it's a war against Russia, Iran, and others in Central Asia, like Kazakhstan and others. And India is up in the air, but I think India does not want to see the Asian sphere region be destabilized and destroyed because of the psychopathic ambitions of the ruling elites in the U.S. and West. And Australia is a puppet client state. They even admit in the 60 Minutes that they have no control over starting a war on China. So that's why it's one of the things that you should pay attention to. And if you look like me and you live in Australia, another interesting thing that was brought up in 60 Minutes, Australia, is that the Australians had the same policy back in World War II that the U.S. did, of basically rounding up the Japanese, and basically, I think it was, if you look carefully into it, you're going to find that it wasn't just Japanese, and people that look like Japanese, like, were all rounded up. They were all rounded up, because I wasn't in the United States at the time, but they were all rounded up. I wasn't even born, but they were all rounded up and put in these into these concentration camps, and the property and fortunes that they had were all taken from them, never to be recovered. And Australia had the same policy. So that's something I didn't know about, but Australia did that, and it was brought up in 60 Minutes. And there was a really kind of a pathetically sad point when two Asians who were on 60 Minutes, who worked for these so-called think tanks, basically they're propaganda arms, who seed lies for weapons manufacturers and and the U.S. government and others who have these aggressive, dementedly aggressive policies of supremacy and control. It was ironic. It was pathetically ironic to hear as one of the Asians says to the other Asian that if a war on China happens, that Australia would basically reenact the concentration camp of World War II, and people that look Asian will be rounded up, and he'd go, and this particular, I forget the guy's name, but he looks at the other Asian guy and says, John, I think, John, I'll see you in the camp. And there's this face that this John character makes. But the thing is but they're serving the psychotic, self-destructive narrative. It's just incredible. Check out the 60 Minutes, and if you really care to get a more critical outlook, and you care about not falling for the fear propaganda that 60 Minutes is of manufacturing consent, then you will check out Daniel Dumbrill, and the video he made with Brian Berlelic and Carl Zahr. They're gonna cover it far better than I can, and but that's only if you're interested in knowing the truth and seeing the facts. I strongly urge that you subscribe to Brian Berlelic of New Atlas. Carl Zahr, he has a Silk and Something. That's the title of his channel, and Brian and Daniel Dumbrill. I strongly suggest you and the other one, and there's some other ones that are really great. Min Press. There's also Double Down News. They're good, but they're not great. With the exception of a few of their hosts, such as Loki. But then there's Breakthrough News and Behind the Headlines, BTH. There's also Gray Zone, which has also Red Lines and Moderate Rebels and Propaganda. So these are great sources. Another one who perhaps is not as critical thinking, but is far better, is Second Thoughts. That's another one that I really pay attention to. Although he doesn't post a lot of videos. There is another guy whom I don't subscribe to, and that is largely due to his so-called main channel and the partner that he chose, whom I get the impression is not exactly a critical thinker or someone who leans towards being cutting himself away from the Western indoctrination. um, who has the critical ability. I can't think of the guy. His name is Alexander. They both name is Alexander, but one is a British guy. God, I can't think of his last name. I don't subscribe to him. I used to, but I unsubscribed due to his choices of partners for talking about geopolitics and other stuff. But this Alexander is far better. Not everything he says I agree with, but I'd have to say it's like 60-40. I agree with him. So, anyways, check out those channels I talked about, and check particularly out Daniel Dumbrill with Brian Beletic and Carl Zars on 60 Minutes, Australia, and their war propaganda, and their fear-mongering war propaganda that they produced. And as I said, I think that's going to end up start to that overt sort of war propaganda of manufacturing consent. I believe is going to start popping up more and more. It won't be the insinuating, but the overt type. So yeah, I'll leave it there, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think so. And it's something I've been saying that a kinetic war is in the offing, has been for a long time, and I think we're gonna see it. And as I said, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And also, I apologize again for doing this in my bathtub, in my bathroom, but unfortunately, I was watching the Daniel Dumbrill and Brian Beletic and Carl Zar doing a video on the 60 Minutes Australia, and I had finished watching it, and I felt the need to put my 2 cents in, and it was strong. So I apologize for doing it in the bathroom, in the bathtub, and so you'll have to excuse me. All right.